Approximately 45% of the actions we perform every single day are not conscious decisions, but rather automatic habits. Our brains automate repetitive behaviors to conserve energy, a process that neuroscientists call the habit loop. This loop consists of three fundamental components: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the signal that initiates the behavior. It can be a specific time, a location, an emotional state, or even the presence of a particular person. The routine is the automatic response to the cue, which is the habit itself. The reward is the feeling of satisfaction that motivates the brain to repeat this cycle again and again. For example, when you wake up in the morning and see sunlight, that is the cue. Making coffee is the routine, and the feeling of alertness from the caffeine is the reward. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology discovered that this loop is encoded in a brain region called the basal ganglia. When a behavior is repeated enough times, the basal ganglia converts it into an automatic pattern that no longer requires conscious thought. Understanding this mechanism is the first and most critical step toward changing your habits permanently. The British cycling team struggled with failure for decades until Dave Brailsford was appointed performance director in 2003. Brailsford's strategy was based on an extraordinarily simple yet remarkably effective principle: the philosophy of marginal gains. According to this approach, if you improve everything related to cycling by just 1%, these small improvements compound into an enormous difference when combined. The team redesigned seats for better ergonomics, changed the fabric of racing uniforms, optimized the sleep schedules of cyclists, and even improved their hand-washing techniques to reduce illness. The results were nothing short of astonishing. Within 5 years, the British team began winning Olympic gold medals and eventually dominated the Tour de France. This principle applies equally to everyday life. If you become 1% better every day, by the end of a single year, you will be 37 times better than where you started. This phenomenon, known as compound effect, demonstrates the extraordinary power of exponential growth. However, the reverse is also true. If you decline by 1% each day, you will approach nearly zero by the end of the year. Great transformations are not born from revolutions, but from small, consistent, and persistent steps taken day after day. If you want to change your habits, you must first learn to recognize the signals that trigger them. According to research by neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz, the brain begins releasing dopamine the moment it receives a trigger signal, creating a powerful sense of anticipation and desire even before the reward is actually received. Trigger points fall into 5 main categories: time, location, emotional state, other people, and the immediately preceding action. To understand a habit, you need to ask yourself these essential questions. What time of day do I usually perform this behavior? Where am I when it happens? What am I feeling at that moment? Who is around me? And what was I doing immediately before this behavior started? A study conducted at Duke University revealed that the primary reason people struggle to change their habits is their failure to correctly identify their triggers. For instance, if you have a habit of eating a sugary snack every afternoon at 3 o'clock, the real trigger might not be hunger at all. It could be the energy drop you experience in the afternoon, or perhaps a feeling of boredom. When you correctly identify the trigger, you can activate a healthier routine in response to that very same cue. Our brain's reward system is a powerful mechanism that evolved to ensure our survival as a species. The neurotransmitter called dopamine is the fundamental fuel of this system. However, dopamine is released not only when we receive a reward, but also when the expectation of a reward is formed. According to Stanford University neuroscientist Andrew Huberman's research, dopamine levels during the anticipation of a reward can be up to 200% higher than at the actual moment of receiving it. You can leverage this knowledge to build lasting habits. The first strategy is reward bundling. Pair an activity you need to do, but find difficult with an activity you already enjoy. For example, only listen to your favorite podcast while exercising at the gym. The second strategy is immediate reinforcement. The brain devalues rewards that are far in the future, a phenomenon known as hyperbolic discounting. Therefore, give yourself a small reward immediately after each minor achievement. The third strategy is visual progress tracking. Placing a mark on a calendar for each successful day keeps the brain's reward system continuously activated. Research demonstrates that this simple method increases habit formation success rates by 39%. These three strategies together form a powerful toolkit for reprogramming your reward system. The widely repeated claim that forming a new habit takes 21 days is nothing more than a popular myth. This misconception originates from observations made by plastic surgeon Maxwell Maltz in 1960. Maltz noticed that his patients took a minimum of 21 days to adjust to their new appearance after surgery. However, this clinical observation was gradually taken out of context and transformed into a universal rule that was never supported by rigorous scientific evidence. A comprehensive study conducted by Philippa Lally and her team at University College London in 2009 revealed a very different reality. After examining the behaviors of 96 participants over an extended period, researchers found that it takes an average of 66 days for a new habit to become truly automatic. However, this timeline varied dramatically depending on the complexity of the behavior, ranging from as few as 18 days to as many as 254 days. A simple habit like drinking a glass of water every morning establishes itself much more quickly, while complex behaviors like regular exercise require significantly more time and repetition. The critical factor is not the duration, but rather the consistency of practice. The study also demonstrated that missing a single day does not reset all progress to zero. This finding proves that it is entirely possible to make progress without falling into the perfectionism trap. Willpower is a limited resource that depletes throughout the day as you use it. This phenomenon is known as ego depletion and has been extensively documented by Roy Baumeister from Florida State University. So how can you shape your habits without relying on willpower alone? The answer lies in environment design. By modifying your surroundings, you can make correct behaviors easier and incorrect behaviors harder. This concept is also known as choice architecture. If you want to develop a healthy eating habit, place fruits on the kitchen counter where they are immediately visible and store junk food in an opaque container inside a hard-to-reach cabinet. In an experiment conducted at a Google company cafeteria, when healthy foods were placed at eye level and sugary snacks were stored in opaque containers, employee sugar consumption dropped by 33% in just 9 weeks without any other intervention. If you want to run every morning, place your running shoes next to your bed the night before. If you want to develop a reading habit, charge your phone in another room entirely and leave a book on your pillow instead. Small changes in your environment make dramatic behavioral transformations possible without requiring any willpower at all. Habit stacking is a technique developed by B.J. Fogg at Stanford University that involves linking new behaviors to existing routines you already perform automatically. This method is based on a simple formula. After I complete my current habit, I will perform my new habit. When the brain already has an established neural pathway, adding a new behavior to that pathway is significantly easier than creating an entirely new route from scratch. Neuroplasticity research has shown that adding new connections to existing neural circuits occurs approximately 40% faster than forming completely new circuits. To illustrate with practical examples, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. After I brush my teeth, I will write 3 things in my gratitude journal. After I finish lunch, I will take a 10-minute walk outside. According to Fogg's extensive research, for habit stacking to succeed, the new behavior should take less than 30 seconds or at the very least, begin with an extremely small initial step. This principle is called baby steps. Read just 1 page, do just 1 push-up, or practice just 1 minute of breathing exercises. When you start small, resistance drops dramatically and the behavior naturally expands over time. Using this technique, people can successfully establish an average of 8 new habits simultaneously without feeling overwhelmed. Completely erasing a bad habit is nearly impossible because once a neural pathway is formed, it becomes permanently encoded in the brain. However, the good news is that you can replace these pathways with new ones. This approach is called the behavioral substitution strategy. The key is finding a new routine that shares the same trigger and delivers the same reward. For example, if you have a habit of smoking when you feel stressed, your trigger is stress, and your reward is a feeling of relaxation. If you respond to that same trigger by performing a deep breathing exercise instead, and that exercise also provides you with a sense of calm, over time, the brain will begin to prefer the new routine. The if-then planning technique developed by Peter Gallwitzer at Columbia University is also an extremely effective method. In this approach, you program automatic responses to predetermined situations in advance. For example, if I crave junk food while watching television in the evening, then I will eat a handful of almonds instead. Research has demonstrated that if-then planning increases the success rate of breaking bad habits by 250%. Remember, breaking a habit does not require having strong willpower. It requires having a smart strategy and the patience to implement it consistently over time. The modern world has conditioned us to expect instant gratification in nearly every aspect of our lives. We can order food with a single tap, access information within seconds, and receive replies to our messages within minutes. However, this addiction to speed seriously sabotages our ability to form lasting habits. Psychologists call this phenomenon delayed gratification intolerance. In the famous marshmallow experiment conducted at Harvard University, researchers observed whether children would eat one marshmallow immediately or wait 15 minutes to receive 2 marshmallows instead. A follow-up study conducted years later revealed that children who successfully waited achieved significantly better outcomes in academic performance, career development, and health indicators throughout their adult lives. In the habit formation process, the impatience trap works like this. During the first few weeks, motivation is high, then results do not come as quickly as expected, and disappointment begins to set in. At this critical point, most people give up entirely. Researchers have named this period the Valley of Disappointment. The secret to crossing this valley is focusing on the process rather than the results. Ask yourself this powerful question. Regardless of the outcome, am I satisfied being the kind of person who does this behavior? This identity-based approach is the most effective method for overcoming the impatience trap. Throughout this journey, you have learned about the habit loop, trigger points, the reward system, environment design, and scientifically proven strategies for lasting behavioral change. A lack of knowledge is no longer a valid excuse. Do not wait for the perfect moment to begin because the perfect moment simply does not exist. Research shows that 87% of people continuously postpone their decision to change, and this procrastination lasts an average of 4 years. To help you take your first step today, here is a simple and actionable plan. First, choose one habit you want to change or one new habit you want to build, just one. Second, identify the trigger associated with that habit. Third, start with the smallest possible version that takes no more than 2 minutes to complete. Fourth, link it to an existing habit you already perform. Fifth, make your progress visible by placing a mark on a calendar each day. Sixth, be compassionate with yourself because missing one day is not failure. As the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen teaches us, great changes begin with small steps. Your brain is ready for change, and your body is capable of transformation. The only thing missing is that first small step taken today. Let us begin.